The lipstick on the wine glass wasn't Lucy's color. I knew this because my wife had exactly 43 shades of lipstick arranged alphabetically in our master bathroom, and she'd worn Crimson Desire to dinner tonight. The smudge on this glass was clearly Scarlet Temptation, a shade Lucy claimed made her look cheap and desperate. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Funny how accurate that assessment turned out to be. I'm Jake Carter, 40 years old, owner of a moderately successful tech startup, and apparently the last person in our social circle to know my wife was screwing around. Standing in my kitchen at 2:30 in the morning, holding evidence of Lucy's girls' night out, I felt that familiar mixture of rage and dark amusement that had gotten me through worse situations. The house was silent except for the hum of our overpriced refrigerator and the distant sound of Lucy's Lexus pulling into the driveway. She was 3 hours late, which meant either the girls had discovered a new wine bar or Lucy had discovered new ways to humiliate me. I placed the wine glass back on the granite countertop exactly where I'd found it, next to the half-empty bottle of Chardonnay and what appeared to be 2 different sets of car keys, Lucy's keys, and a set with a BMW logo that definitely didn't belong to any of her usual accomplices. The front door opened with the soft click of someone trying to be quiet. Lucy's heels tapped against the hardwood floor in an uneven rhythm that suggested she'd had more than wine tonight. I remained in the kitchen, arms crossed, waiting. "Jake? Are you awake?" Her voice carried that artificially sweet tone she used when she was lying. After 15 years of marriage, I could read her tells like a poker player reading cards. "In here," I called back, my voice neutral. Lucy appeared in the kitchen doorway, and I had to admit, she still looked good for 38. Her blonde hair was slightly mussed, her makeup smudged, just enough to suggest she'd been doing something more interesting than discussing book clubs with the girls. She wore the black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, ironic, considering she was apparently celebrating with someone else. "How was girls' night?" I asked, gesturing toward the wine glass. Lucy's eyes flicked to the evidence, then back to my face. "Oh, that. Gina came by earlier. She was upset about the divorce proceedings with Richard. You know how she gets." Gina Morrison, Lucy's best friend and partner in various social crimes. Gina, who wore exclusively pink lipstick because she thought it made her look younger. Gina, who was allergic to Chardonnay and only drank vodka. "Right," I said. "And the BMW keys?" Lucy's pause lasted exactly 2 seconds too long. "Those are Gina's new car keys. She asked me to hold them because her purse is so small." Gina drove a Mercedes, had driven a Mercedes for the past 6 years. Lucy knew I knew this. "How is Gina doing with the divorce?" I asked, settling into my favorite interrogation technique, letting people dig their own graves with increasingly elaborate lies. "Oh, you know, the usual drama. Richard's being impossible about the settlement. She needed to vent." Lucy moved to the wine bottle, poured herself a glass, and took a sip. Her hand trembled slightly. "Where did you girls go tonight?" "That new place downtown. Elevate, the one with the rooftop bar." Elevate had been closed for renovations for the past month. I knew this because I'd tried to make reservations there 2 weeks ago for a client dinner. "Sounds fun," I said. "Did you take any pictures?" Lucy's grip tightened on her wine glass. "You know how I feel about photos when I'm not looking my best." This from a woman who had posted 17 Instagram stories during last week's girls' night, including multiple selfies and shots of overpriced cocktails. I pulled out my phone and opened our shared photo album. "That's weird. Your location services show you were on Riverside Drive tonight. Isn't that where Mark Donovan lives?" The wine glass slipped from Lucy's hand, shattering against the kitchen tiles in an explosion of glass and wine. We both stared at the mess for a moment, and in that silence, I saw my marriage end. Mark Donovan, 42, divorced, finance bro with more money than sense and a penthouse overlooking the harbor. Mark, who'd been making increasingly obvious plays for Lucy at every social gathering for the past 6 months. Mark, who drove a black BMW and thought he was God's gift to unsatisfied housewives. Jake, I can explain. Can you? I interrupted, my voice still calm. Because I'm genuinely curious how you're going to explain the explicit text messages. Lucy went pale. What text messages? I held up our shared iPad, the one we used for grocery lists and family calendars, the one that automatically synced with both our phones, the one that had been pinging with notifications for the past 3 hours, while Lucy was supposedly consoling Gina about her divorce. The messages were detailed, graphic, and left absolutely no doubt about what Lucy and Mark had been doing tonight. There were photos, too. Nothing pornographic, just intimate enough to make their affair crystal clear. You went through my phone? Lucy's voice rose, shifting from defensive to outraged. I didn't have to. You forgot to turn off message syncing on the iPad. I scrolled through the conversation, reading select highlights aloud. Mark, 8:15 p.m. Can't wait to taste you again. Lucy, 8:17 p.m. Jake thinks I'm at book club. We have all night. Mark, 8:20 p.m. Wear the black dress. I want to take it off you slowly. Lucy lunged for the iPad, but I pulled it back. There's more. Should I continue? There's a particularly interesting exchange from last Tuesday when I thought you were at yoga class. Jake, please let me explain. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. The question is, how long has this been going on? Lucy sank into one of our kitchen chairs, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. 3 months, she whispered. 3 months. While I'd been working 60-hour weeks to expand the business, Lucy had been working on expanding her social circle in ways I hadn't anticipated. Why? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. Lucy looked up at me, and for a moment, I saw something that might have been regret. Then her expression hardened, and I saw the woman I'd apparently been married to without knowing it. Because you're boring, Jake. When's the last time you surprised me? When's the last time you looked at me like I was the most beautiful woman in the world? Mark makes me feel alive. He makes me feel desired. And I make you feel what, exactly? Safe. Comfortable. Like a piece of furniture that's always there when you need it, but never really noticed. I nodded slowly, processing this information. So you decided to fuck Mark Donovan in his penthouse while I was working to pay for your lifestyle. Don't be crude. Crude? Lucy, you sent him photos of yourself in lingerie I bought you, in our bedroom on our anniversary weekend. I think crude is exactly what this situation calls for. Lucy stood up, glass crunching under her designer heels. I want a divorce. Good. So do I. She seemed surprised by my calm response. I'm going to take half of everything. The house, the business, your retirement accounts, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows what kind of husband you really were. What kind was that? The kind who drove his wife into another man's arms through neglect and emotional abuse? I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I set the iPad on the counter and looked at my soon-to-be ex-wife. Lucy, you just handed me the script. Now I'm going to direct this show. She frowned, not understanding. Go pack a bag. You can stay at Gina's tonight, or Mark's, or wherever cheating wives go when their husbands find out. But you're not sleeping in my house. Our house, she corrected. My house. The deed is in my name, remember? You insisted on it for tax purposes. Lucy's face went through several interesting color changes as she realized her first tactical error. You can't throw me out. I have rights. You have the right to leave voluntarily, or the right to have the police escort you out after I show them the evidence of your affair and the threatening text you sent me last week. What threatening text? I scrolled to another conversation on the iPad. The one where you said you'd destroy me if I ever tried to control your social life. Funny how context changes everything. Lucy stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "You're not the man I married." "No, I'm not. The man you married was naive enough to trust you. The man standing here now knows exactly who you are and what you're capable of. And Lucy, I'm much better at this game than you are." She left without another word, her heels clicking rapidly up the stairs. I heard drawers slamming, closet doors banging, and the general sounds of someone packing in a hurry. 20 minutes later, she was gone. I poured myself a scotch and sat in my kitchen, surrounded by broken glass and the wreckage of my marriage, and started planning my next move. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my home office, documenting everything. Screenshots of text messages, photos, timestamps, location data, building a comprehensive file that would make my divorce attorney very happy and Lucy's attorney very nervous. At 6 a.m. I called Miles Rodriguez, my 26-year-old assistant and the closest thing I had to a son. Miles was brilliant with technology, fiercely loyal, and had never liked Lucy. He also had a flexible relationship with privacy laws that would prove useful. "Boss, it's 6 in the morning. I'm divorced. Well, getting divorced. Can you come in early today? I need your particular skill set." "The legal skill set or the questionably legal skill set?" "Let's start with questionably legal and see how far that gets us." Miles arrived at my office by 7, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing a grin that suggested he'd been waiting for this day. "So Lucy finally got caught?" "You knew." "Boss, everyone knew. She wasn't exactly subtle about it. The question is, what are we going to do about it?" I handed him the iPad with the text messages. Miles scrolled through them, his expression shifting from amusement to disgust to professional interest. "Mark Donovan, huh? The finance bro with the BMW and the personality disorder? You know him?" "Know of him. He's got a reputation around town. This isn't his first married woman, and it probably won't be his last. Word is he specifically targets wives in unhappy marriages." How unhappy did my marriage look to everyone else? Miles set down the iPad and gave me a look that was part sympathy, part exasperation. "Jake, Lucy's been complaining about you to anyone who'd listen for the past year. How you work too much, how you don't appreciate her, how you're emotionally distant. She's been setting the stage for this affair for months. And nobody thought to mention this to me? Would you have listened? You've been so focused on growing the business, you barely noticed when Lucy redecorated the entire house last spring." He was right, and that stung. But it also clarified something important. If Lucy had been building a narrative about our marriage, I needed to build a counter-narrative. Fast. "What do you need me to do?" Miles asked. "First, I need you to help me understand the full scope of this affair. Text messages, emails, social media interactions, credit card records, everything. Second, I need you to help me document Lucy's spending habits, her social activities, and her relationship with her friends." "You want me to hack her accounts?" "I want you to analyze data from accounts we legally have access to. Joint credit cards, shared cloud storage, family phone plans, everything above board." Miles nodded, but his grin suggested he understood the subtext. "And the questionably legal part? Let's see what the legal investigation turns up first." We spent the morning building a comprehensive timeline of Lucy's affair. The evidence was damning and extensive. Lucy and Mark had been texting daily for 3 months, meeting at his penthouse twice a week, and using our joint credit card to pay for hotels when his place wasn't available. The financial records were particularly interesting. Lucy had been spending increasingly large amounts on clothes, jewelry, and spa treatments, clearly preparing for her new relationship. She'd also been making cash withdrawals that didn't correspond to any documented expenses. "Look at this," Miles said, pointing to a series of transactions. "She's been taking out $500 in cash every week for the past 2 months. What do you think she's doing with it? Gifts for Mark? Paying for things she doesn't want me to see on the credit card statements? Or building a secret stash for when she leaves you?" That possibility hadn't occurred to me, but it made sense. Lucy was many things, But she wasn't stupid. If she was planning to leave me for Mark, she'd want to have some financial independence during the transition. Can you trace where she's been making these withdrawals? Already on it. They're all from ATMs near Mark's penthouse or near that boutique hotel downtown, the Riverside Inn. The Riverside Inn. Expensive, discreet, and exactly the kind of place Lucy would choose for an affair. It was also the kind of place that kept detailed records of their guests. My phone rang. Lucy. Don't answer it, Miles advised. Actually, I think I will. Put it on speaker and keep recording. I answered on the fourth ring. Hello, Lucy. Jake, we need to talk. I said some things last night that I didn't mean. Maybe we can work this out. Work what out, exactly? Our marriage. I made a mistake, but it doesn't have to end everything. We can go to counseling, work through our problems. Miles raised an eyebrow. I put the phone on mute for a second. She's panicking. Mark probably told her to fix things with me. Or Mark dumped her when he realized she'd been caught. I unmuted the phone. Lucy, where are you right now? I'm at Gina's. I told her what happened, and she thinks we should try to save our marriage. What exactly did you tell Gina? That we had a fight? That you accused me of having an affair? That you threw me out of the house? And did you tell her about Mark? A pause. There's nothing to tell about Mark. He's just a friend. A friend you've been fucking for 3 months. Jake, please don't be vulgar. Can we meet somewhere and talk about this like adults? Sure. How about the Riverside Inn? You seem to know it well. Another pause, longer this time. I don't know what you mean. Room 412, last Tuesday afternoon. Room 318, the Tuesday before that. Should I continue? Miles looked impressed. She hung up on you. She's regrouping. Calling Mark, probably, or Gina, trying to figure out how much I know and what her options are. What are her options? Fewer than she thinks. Miles, I need you to do something for me, and I need you to be very careful about how you do it. Name it. I need you to find out everything you can about Mark Donovan's personal life, his business dealings, his previous relationships. I want to know if he has any vulnerabilities, any pressure points, anything I can use to make him go away. You want me to investigate him? I want you to research him. Public records, social media, business filings, anything that's legally available. If he's been targeting married women, there might be a pattern. There might be other husbands who'd be interested in comparing notes. Miles cracked his knuckles. Now we're talking. Give me 2 hours. While Miles worked his magic, I called my attorney, Susan Chen. Susan was sharp, ruthless, and had a reputation for destroying cheating spouses in divorce proceedings. She was also expensive, but considering what Lucy was trying to take from me, she'd be worth every penny. Jake, I was wondering when you'd call. I heard through the grapevine that Lucy's been making some interesting social choices lately. The grapevine? My husband plays golf with Mark Donovan. Apparently Mark's been bragging about his new conquest to anyone who'd listen. I felt a fresh surge of anger. He's been talking about Lucy publicly? Oh yes, quite explicitly from what I understand. Something about teaching a neglected housewife what she's been missing. Charming man. Can we use that in the divorce proceedings? We can use everything, Jake. Adultery might not be grounds for divorce in this state anymore, but it's certainly grounds for an unequal division of assets, especially when the cheating spouse has been using marital funds to support the affair. How unequal are we talking? With the evidence you've described, 70-30 in your favor, possibly 80-20, if we can prove she was planning to leave you and had been hiding assets. I thought about Lucy's cash withdrawals. I think we can prove that. Excellent. I'll start drafting papers. In the meantime, I need you to do something for me. What? Don't do anything stupid. Don't confront Mark. Don't threaten Lucy. Don't do anything that could be construed as harassment or intimidation. Let me handle the legal aspects while you handle the emotional aspects. What if I want to handle more than just the emotional aspects? Jake, I've known you for 5 years. You're smart, you're strategic, and you're absolutely ruthless when you need to be. Those are all good qualities in business and in divorce proceedings, but they can also get you in trouble if you're not careful. I'll be careful. See that you are. I'll have preliminary papers ready by tomorrow morning. After I hung up, Miles looked up from his computer with an expression of pure glee. Boss, you're going to love this. What did you find? Mark Donovan isn't just a serial adulterer. He's a serial adulterer with a pattern. In the past 5 years, he's had affairs with at least 6 married women that I can document. 3 of them ended up divorced. 2 of them went back to their husbands, and 1 of them is still ongoing. Still ongoing? Yeah. Apparently Lucy isn't his only current project. He's also been seeing a woman named Jennifer Walsh. Her husband owns a construction company. I felt a slow smile spreading across my face. Miles, I think it's time to expand our network. Jennifer Walsh's husband, Tom, turned out to be exactly what I'd hoped for. A straightforward, hard-working man who'd been completely blindsided by his wife's affair. When I called him that afternoon and suggested we meet for coffee, he agreed immediately. Tom was my age, built like someone who'd spent his life in construction, and had the kind of steady, no-nonsense demeanor that made me understand why Jennifer had married him. He also had the look of a man who'd been gut-punched and was still trying to figure out what had hit him. You said on the phone that your wife is involved with Mark Donovan too? He asked, as we settled into a corner booth at a diner across town from our usual haunts. For the past 3 months. How long has he been seeing Jennifer? 6 months that I know of, probably longer. Tom stirred his coffee with more force than necessary. I found out 2 weeks ago, came home early from a job site and found them in my living room. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, at least you found out through text messages. I had to see it with my own eyes. He looked up at me. What's your plan? My plan? You didn't call me just to commiserate. You've got something in mind, and frankly, I'm interested in hearing it. I've been thinking about Mark Donovan a lot lately, and most of my thoughts aren't legal. I liked Tom immediately. What do you know about Mark's business? He's some kind of financial advisor, right? Manages investment portfolios for rich people. He's a registered investment advisor with about $50 million in assets under management. His clients are mostly wealthy individuals and small businesses. His reputation is everything in that business. Tom's eyes sharpened. And if his reputation were to suffer? He'd lose clients, lose income, lose the lifestyle that makes him attractive to women like our wives. What kind of reputation damage are we talking about? I pulled out my phone and showed Tom the screenshots of Mark's text messages with Lucy. He's been documenting his affairs in explicit detail. Text messages, photos, even recordings. He keeps trophies. Tom read through the messages, his expression growing darker with each screen. Jesus Christ. He talks about them like they're conquests. Because that's what they are to him. My assistant found evidence of at least 6 affairs in the past 5 years. Mark has a system. Target unhappy wives, seduce them with attention and expensive gifts, document everything for his own entertainment, then move on to the next target. And our wives fell for it. Our wives were vulnerable, and he exploited that vulnerability. The question is, what do we do about it? Tom leaned back in his booth. What are you thinking? I'm thinking Mark's clients might be interested to know what kind of man they're trusting with their money. I'm thinking his professional associations might want to review his conduct. I'm thinking the women he's currently pursuing might want to know about his pattern of behavior. You want to destroy him. I want to expose him. There's a difference. Tom was quiet for a long moment, then nodded slowly. What do you need from me? Information, evidence, corroboration. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. We spent the next hour sharing information and planning our approach. Tom had been documenting Jennifer's affair just as methodically as I'd been documenting Lucy's, and his evidence painted the same picture. Mark was a predator who targeted married women, used them for his own gratification, then discarded them when they became inconvenient. "There's something else," Tom said as we were preparing to leave. "Jennifer mentioned that Mark has been talking about upgrading to a younger target, someone in her 20s, unmarried, with a rich father. He's getting tired of married women? Or he's getting nervous about angry husbands. Either way, it sounds like he's planning to dump both our wives soon." That information changed everything. If Mark was planning to abandon Lucy anyway, then Lucy's attempt to reconcile with me wasn't about love or regret. It was about fear. She'd realized that Mark wasn't a long-term solution to her problems, and she was trying to keep me as a backup plan. I wasn't interested in being anyone's backup plan. When I got home that evening, Lucy's car was in the driveway. I found her in the kitchen, cooking dinner and wearing the kind of outfit she usually reserved for special occasions. She'd clearly spent the day at the salon and the spa, and she looked like she was auditioning for the role of repentant wife. "Hi, honey," she said brightly. "I made your favorite, beef stew with those little potatoes you like." I set my briefcase on the counter and looked at the elaborate spread she'd prepared. "What's the occasion?" "I wanted to apologize for last night. I was upset, and I said things I didn't mean. I've been thinking about us, about our marriage, and I realize I've been taking you for granted." "Have you?" "Yes, and I'm sorry. I know I've been distant lately, and I know I haven't been the wife you deserve, but I want to change that. I want to work on us." Lucy moved closer, reaching for my hands. Her touch felt foreign, like shaking hands with a stranger. "Jake, I love you. I've always loved you. Whatever problems we have, we can fix them." "What about Mark?" Lucy's smile faltered for just a moment. "Mark is just a friend. I know you think there's something more, but there isn't. Maybe I've been spending too much time with him, but it's only because he listens to me when I'm frustrated about things." "What kind of things?" "Marriage things. Work things. You know how it is." "Actually, I don't. Why don't you tell me what you've been discussing with Mark about our marriage?" Lucy released my hands and turned back to the stove. "Nothing specific, just general relationship stuff. He's been through a divorce, so he understands how complicated marriage can be." "And what advice has he been giving you about our complicated marriage?" "He thinks we should go to counseling. He thinks most relationship problems can be solved with better communication." I almost laughed. Mark Donovan, relationship counselor and marriage advocate. The same Mark Donovan who'd been texting my wife about all the things he wanted to do to her body while I was at work. "Lucy, turn around and look at me." She turned, her expression carefully composed. "I know about the affair. I know about the hotel rooms, the text messages, the photos, all of it. I know you've been sleeping with Mark Donovan for 3 months. And I know you used our credit card to pay for hotels when his penthouse wasn't available." Lucy's face went through the same color changes I'd seen the night before, but this time she recovered more quickly. "Jake, I don't know what you think you know, but I know everything, Lucy. I have screenshots of your text messages, records of your hotel stays, photos you sent him, and recordings of phone calls. I also know that Mark has been having affairs with at least 5 other married women, including Jennifer Walsh, who he's been seeing for the past 6 months." That last piece of information hit Lucy like a physical blow. She actually staggered backward against the stove. "That's not possible," she whispered. "It's not only possible, it's documented. Mark keeps records of all his affairs, Lucy. You're not special to him. You're just another conquest in a long line of married women he's seduced and discarded." Lucy sank into a kitchen chair, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. "He said he loved me. He said he'd never felt this way about anyone before. He said the same thing to Jennifer Walsh and to Patricia Morrison before her, and to Sarah Chen before that. Mark has a script, Lucy, and you fell for it completely. You're lying. I pulled out my phone and showed her photos of Mark with other women, text messages he'd sent to multiple targets, evidence of his pattern of behavior. Lucy stared at the screen in growing horror. "Oh, God," she whispered. "Oh, God, what have I done?" "You destroyed our marriage for a man who was using you for sex and entertainment. You threw away 15 years for someone who's been laughing about you with his golf buddies." Lucy began to cry, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of humiliation and rage. "He played me." "Yes, he did. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Lucy looked up at me with an expression I'd never seen before. "What do you mean?" "Mark Donovan destroyed our marriage, Lucy. He seduced my wife, used our money to fund his entertainment, and humiliated me in front of our entire social circle. Don't you think he should face some consequences for that?" "What kind of consequences?" "The kind that make sure he never does this to another family." Lucy was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, harder, more focused. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to help me destroy him." Lucy and I spent that night planning Mark Donovan's downfall with the kind of methodical precision we'd once used to plan our business expansion. It was strange, working together again after months of growing apart, but our shared hatred of Mark created a temporary alliance that felt almost like the old days. "He keeps everything on his phone," Lucy said, scrolling through her own messages with Mark. "Photos, videos, text conversations with other women. He showed me some of them once, thinking it would make me jealous." "What kind of photos?" "Intimate ones. He has a whole folder labeled trophies with pictures from all his affairs. He's proud of it, Jake. He thinks it makes him some kind of master seducer." "And he showed you this?" "He was drunk, bragging about his conquests. I thought it was just male ego at the time, but now I realize he was probably planning to add my photos to that collection." I made a note on my legal pad. "What about his business? Did he ever mention problems with clients, regulatory issues, anything that might make him vulnerable professionally?" "He's been worried about a client audit. Something about investment returns that don't match his reports. He said it was just a paperwork issue, but he's been stressed about it for weeks." That was interesting. Investment advisors lived and died by their regulatory compliance, and any suggestion of impropriety could trigger investigations that would destroy a career. "Did he give you any details about this audit?" "Just that it was some rich old lady who was questioning her account statements. He called her a paranoid bitch who didn't understand how investments worked." Miles, who'd been quietly taking notes, looked up. "Boss, if he's been falsifying investment returns, that's securities fraud. That's federal prison time." "Let's not get ahead of ourselves," I said, "but it's worth investigating." Lucy was studying her phone, scrolling through months of messages. "There's something else. Mark has been planning some kind of big score. He mentioned it several times but never gave me details. Something about a life-changing opportunity that would set him up for retirement." "When did he mention this?" "Last week. He said after this deal went through, he'd be able to afford a bigger place, maybe a house in the hills. He wanted me to leave you and move in with him." "And you said?" Lucy had the grace to look embarrassed. "I said I'd think about it." Miles cleared his throat. "If he's planning some kind of major financial move, it might be connected to the client audit. Maybe he's trying to cover losses with new investments, or maybe he's planning to disappear before the audit is completed. Either way, it gives us leverage," I said. "Lucy, I need you to contact Mark and arrange a meeting. Tell him you've decided to leave me, that you want to discuss your future together. He'll want to meet at his penthouse." "Perfect. That's exactly where we want him." Lucy looked confused. "What are you planning?" "I'm planning to give Mark Donovan exactly what he deserves, but first, we need more information, and you're going to get it for us." "How?" I pulled out a small recording device that Miles had acquired through his network of questionably legal contacts. "You're going to wear this to your meeting with Mark. You're going to get him talking about his other affairs, his business problems, and his plans for the future. You're going to document everything he says." That's illegal, isn't it? Recording someone without their consent? In this state, only one party needs to consent to a recording. Since you'll be wearing the device, your consent is sufficient. Lucy stared at the recording device like it might bite her. What if he finds it? He won't. Miles has tested it extensively. It's undetectable and has a 6-hour battery life. And what if he says something that implicates me in his business dealings? Lucy, you're not involved in his business dealings. You're a client's wife who was seduced by an unethical advisor. If anything, you're a victim of his misconduct. That seemed to reassure her. When do you want me to meet with him? Tomorrow night. The sooner we get this information, the sooner we can move to the next phase. What's the next phase? I smiled, and Lucy actually flinched. The next phase is where Mark Donovan learns that actions have consequences. The next morning, I met with Tom Walsh to update him on our progress. Tom had been busy too, documenting his wife's affair and gathering information about Mark's business practices. "I talked to a friend of mine who works in financial services," Tom said. "He says Mark's firm has been under informal scrutiny for the past year. Nothing official, but there have been complaints about aggressive sales tactics and questionable investment recommendations." "What kind of complaints?" "Elderly clients being pushed into high-risk investments, unauthorized trading, excessive fees, the kind of stuff that gets regulators interested." "Have any formal complaints been filed?" "Not yet, but my friend says it's probably just a matter of time. Apparently Mark's been walking a very fine line between aggressive sales and outright fraud." "And if someone were to provide evidence that he'd crossed that line?" Tom grinned. "My friend says the State Securities Commission would be very interested in that evidence." We were interrupted by my phone ringing. Lucy. "Jake, I talked to Mark. He wants to meet tonight at his penthouse. He sounded excited, like he has big news to share." "Perfect. Are you ready for this?" "I think so. But Jake, what happens after tonight? What happens to us?" It was a fair question, and one I'd been avoiding thinking about. Lucy had betrayed me in the most fundamental way possible, but she was also helping me get revenge on the man who'd destroyed our marriage. Did that balance the scales? Did it matter? "I don't know, Lucy. Let's get through tonight first." "Okay, I'll call you when it's over." After Lucy hung up, Tom looked at me curiously. "You're really going to trust her with this?" "I don't have a choice. She's the only one who has access to Mark, and she's the only one he'll talk to openly. What if she warns him? What if she decides to protect him instead of helping you?" It was a possibility I'd considered. Lucy's motivations were complicated, and her loyalty was questionable. But I didn't think she'd protect Mark, not after learning about his other affairs. Lucy's pride had been wounded as much as her heart, and wounded pride was a powerful motivator for revenge. "She won't protect him," I said. "She wants to hurt him as much as I do." "And after you destroy Mark, what then?" "Then Lucy and I get divorced and we both move on with our lives." You make it sound simple. The divorce will be simple. Everything else? I shrugged. We'll figure it out as we go. That evening I sat in my home office with Miles, monitoring Lucy's meeting with Mark through the recording device. The audio quality was excellent, and Mark's voice came through clearly as he welcomed Lucy to his penthouse. "Baby, you look incredible. I've been thinking about you all day. I've been thinking about you too, about what you said, about us having a future together. And? I want that future, Mark. I'm ready to leave Jake and start over with you." There was the sound of glasses clinking. Then Mark's voice, closer now. "I knew you'd come around. Jake never deserved you anyway. You're too much woman for a boring tech guy. Tell me about our future. What will it look like? Better than anything you've had with Jake, I promise. In fact, I'm about to close a deal that's going to change everything for us. We'll be able to afford anything we want." "What kind of deal?" Mark's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "I've been working on something big, Lucy. Really big. There's this client of mine, an old woman with more money than sense. She's been questioning some of her investment returns, getting suspicious." "That sounds problematic." "It would be, except I've found a way to solve the problem permanently. See, the old lady has been showing signs of dementia, memory problems, confusion, the whole thing. Her family's been talking about putting her in a care facility. I don't understand. I'm going to help accelerate that process. A few more bad investment decisions, some strategic losses, and her family will have no choice but to declare her incompetent. Once she's in a care facility, her power of attorney transfers to her son, who happens to be a very close friend of mine." Miles and I looked at each other in shock. Mark wasn't just committing securities fraud, he was planning to exploit a vulnerable elderly client. "Mark, that sounds illegal." "It's not illegal, it's just aggressive wealth management. The old lady's going to lose her money anyway when she goes into care. This way, some of it ends up benefiting people who can actually use it." "People like us?" "People exactly like us. Lucy, this deal is worth millions. Enough to set us up for life." "When is this happening?" "Soon. Very soon. I just need to arrange a few more strategic losses, and then we can trigger the competency evaluation. Once that's done, we're home free." Lucy's voice was carefully neutral. "What do you need me to do?" "Just be patient a little longer, and maybe help me celebrate when it's all over." There were sounds of movement, then Mark's voice again, more intimate now. "You know what I love about you, Lucy? You're not like the other women I've been with. You understand what it takes to get ahead in this world." "Other women?" "Oh, you know, Jennifer, Patricia, Sarah. They were all too squeamish about the business side of things, too worried about ethics and legality. But you're different. You're smart enough to see the big picture." "You've discussed your business with other women?" Mark laughed. "Baby, you don't need to be jealous. Those relationships were just physical. What we have is special." "Special how?" "Special because you're the one I want to share my success with. The others were just entertainment." The recording continued for another hour, with Mark providing increasingly damaging details about his business practices, his exploitation of clients, and his casual attitude toward the women he'd seduced. By the time Lucy left his penthouse, we had enough evidence to destroy him completely. When Lucy called me an hour later, her voice was shaking. "Jake, did you hear all of that?" "We heard everything. Are you okay?" "No, I'm not okay. He's a monster, Jake. He's planning to steal from an elderly woman with dementia, and he talked about me like I was just another conquest." "You were just another conquest, Lucy. That's what we've been trying to tell you." "I know that now. God, I feel so stupid." "You made a mistake. A big one, but still just a mistake. Mark Donovan is a predator who's been destroying families for years. There's a difference. What happens now? Now we destroy him." The next morning, I had 3 copies of Lucy's recording. One for the State Securities Commission, one for the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, and one for my own purposes. I also had detailed documentation of Mark's affairs, his pattern of targeting married women, and his casual attitude toward the families he'd destroyed. But before I turned Mark over to the authorities, I wanted to have a conversation with him. A private conversation where I could explain exactly what was going to happen to his life and why he deserved every bit of it. I called Mark's office and made an appointment under a false name, claiming to be a potential client interested in investment services. His receptionist was happy to schedule me for that afternoon. Mark Donovan's office was exactly what I'd expected: expensive furniture, impressive views, and enough financial awards and certifications on the walls to impress naive clients. Mark himself was also exactly what I'd expected: handsome in a generic way, expensively dressed, and radiating the kind of artificial confidence that women like Lucy apparently found irresistible. "Mr. Johnson, thank you for coming in," Mark said, extending his hand. "I understand you're interested in our wealth management services. Actually, I'm interested in discussing your relationship with my wife." Mark's smile faltered. "I'm sorry, I don't understand." "My name is Jake Carter. My wife is Lucy Carter. I believe you know her quite well." Mark's face went through several interesting expressions before settling on cautious neutrality. "I'm not sure what you're implying, Mr. Carter, but I think there might be some misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding. You've been sleeping with my wife for 3 months. You've been using our joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms. You've been sending her explicit text messages and photos. You've been bragging about your conquest to your golf buddies." Mark moved behind his desk, putting distance between us. "Mr. Carter, I think you should leave. If you have concerns about your marriage, you should discuss them with your wife, not with me." "Oh, I've discussed them with Lucy extensively. In fact, she's been very helpful in providing information about your relationship." "What kind of information?" I pulled out my phone and played a brief excerpt from the previous night's recording. Mark's voice filled the office, discussing his plans to exploit an elderly client and his casual dismissal of his other affairs. Mark went pale. "Where did you get that recording?" "Lucy was wearing a wire last night. She recorded your entire conversation, including your confession to securities fraud and elder abuse." Mark sank into his chair. "That recording is illegal. You can't use it. Actually, in this state, only one party needs to consent to a recording. Since Lucy was wearing the device, her consent makes the recording completely legal and admissible in court. What do you want?" "I want you to understand what's going to happen to your life, Mark. I want you to know that every choice you made, every family you destroyed, every woman you used, has led to this moment." Mark tried to recover his composure. "Look, Jake, I understand you're upset, but Lucy came on to me, not the other way around. She was unhappy in her marriage, looking for excitement. I just gave her what she wanted." "What she wanted? Or what you manipulated her into wanting?" "I didn't manipulate anyone. Lucy made her own choices. Lucy made choices based on lies you told her. You told her you loved her. You told her she was special. You told her you wanted a future with her. All lies designed to get her into bed and feed your ego. That's not... You keep trophies, Mark. Photos and videos of all your conquests. You showed them to Lucy to make her jealous. You bragged to your friends about teaching neglected housewives what they've been missing. You turned my wife into entertainment for your amusement." Mark was quiet for a moment, then tried a different approach. "Jake, I'm sorry about what happened between Lucy and me. I really am, but it takes 2 people to have an affair. Lucy wasn't some innocent victim." "You're right. Lucy made choices, and she'll face consequences for those choices." "But you're a predator, Mark. You specifically target vulnerable married women, exploit their unhappiness, and then discard them when you're bored. That's not an affair. That's a pattern of abuse." "I never abused anyone. You abused their trust. You abused their vulnerability. You abused their marriages and their families. And now you're planning to abuse an elderly woman with dementia." Mark's eyes darted to his computer, probably wondering if I'd somehow accessed his client files. "I don't know what you're talking about. Mrs. Eleanor Whitman, age 78, diagnosed with early-stage dementia 6 months ago. You've been managing her portfolio for 3 years, and you've been systematically moving her money into high-risk investments that benefit you more than her." Mark's face confirmed that I'd hit the target. "How do you know about Eleanor?" "Lucy recorded you confessing to the whole scheme last night. Your plan to accelerate her mental decline, manipulate her family into declaring her incompetent, and then work with her son to steal her assets." "That's not what I said." "It's exactly what you said. I have it on tape, Mark. Every word." Mark stood up abruptly. Get out of my office. I'm not finished. Yes, you are. Get out or I'll call security. Go ahead. Call them. I'm sure they'd be interested to hear about your business practices. Mark reached for his phone, then stopped. What do you want from me? I want you to know that your life as you know it is over. I'm turning the recording over to the State Securities Commission, the FBI, and the District Attorney's Office. I'm also providing them with documentation of your pattern of targeting married women and using your position as a financial advisor to gain access to vulnerable families. You can't prove any of that. I can prove all of it. I have testimony from multiple husbands whose wives you seduced. I have evidence of your systematic targeting of unhappy marriages. I have documentation of your exploitation of client relationships for personal gain. Mark sank back into his chair. What do you want? Money? I can pay you to keep quiet about this. I don't want your money, Mark. I want justice. Justice for what? Having an affair with your wife? Justice for every family you've destroyed. Justice for every woman you've used and discarded. Justice for elderly clients you've exploited. Justice for the systematic way you've abused your position and your privileges. Mark was quiet for a long moment, then looked up at me with something that might have been genuine emotion. I never meant for it to go this far. Yes, you did. You planned every step of it. You targeted Lucy specifically because she was vulnerable. You used your charm and your money to seduce her. You documented everything for your own entertainment. You bragged about it to your friends. This isn't something that got out of hand, Mark. This is who you are. And now, you're going to destroy me. No, Mark. You destroyed yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. I stood up and headed for the door, then turned back. Oh, and Mark, Lucy won't be seeing you anymore. She's realized what kind of man you really are, and she's disgusted by it. So you've lost your current conquest, you're about to lose your business, and you're probably going to prison. I'd say that's a fair trade for what you did to my family. I left Mark's office and drove straight to the FBI field office, where I turned over the recording and all supporting documentation. The agent who interviewed me seemed very interested in the elder abuse angle and promised a full investigation. From there, I went to the State Securities Commission, where I filed formal complaints about Mark's business practices and provided evidence of his systematic exploitation of client relationships. My final stop was the District Attorney's Office, where I met with a prosecutor who specialized in financial crimes. She listened to the recording twice, reviewed all my documentation, and assured me that charges would be filed within the week. By the time I got home that evening, Mark Donovan's life was effectively over. He just didn't know it yet. Lucy was waiting for me in the kitchen, looking nervous and hopeful. How did it go? It went exactly as planned. Mark's going to be arrested, probably within the next few days. His business is going to be shut down, his assets frozen, and his clients protected. And us? What happens to us now? I looked at my wife of 15 years, the woman who'd betrayed me for a predator, who'd thrown away our marriage for excitement and attention, who'd helped me destroy the man who'd destroyed us. Now we get divorced, Lucy. Cleanly, quietly, and with as much dignity as we can manage. Jake, I know I made terrible mistakes, but maybe we could try counseling. Try to work through this. No, Lucy. What we had is gone. You killed it when you decided Mark Donovan was more important than our marriage. But you also helped me get justice for what he did to us and to other families. That means something. What does it mean? It means our divorce will be fair. 50-50 split of assets, no alimony, no public accusations or recriminations. We'll tell people we grew apart, that it was mutual, that we remain friends. Lucy started crying. I'm so sorry, Jake. I'm so sorry for everything. I know you are, and I'm sorry too. Sorry that we let our marriage deteriorate to the point where someone like Mark could exploit it. Sorry that we didn't communicate better, didn't work harder to stay connected. Do you think we could have saved it, if Mark hadn't come along? I don't know. Maybe. But Mark did come along, and you made your choice. Now we both have to live with the consequences." Lucy nodded, wiping her eyes. "Will you hate me forever?" "I don't hate you now, Lucy. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I'm disappointed. But I don't hate you. You made a terrible mistake. But you also helped me make sure Mark can never do this to another family. That counts for something." "What counts for something?" "It counts for a clean ending. No more lies, no more deception, no more games. Just an honest acknowledgement that we're not right for each other anymore, and a commitment to ending our marriage with as much grace as we can manage." Lucy looked around our kitchen at the life we'd built together over 15 years. "I'm going to miss this. I'm going to miss parts of it too. But Lucy, we can't go back. We can only go forward." "Where will I go?" "Wherever you want. You'll get half of everything, remember? That's enough to start over anywhere you choose." "And you? What will you do?" I thought about that question. What would I do with the rest of my life? I was 40 years old, newly single, with a successful business and a hard-earned understanding of what I would and wouldn't accept in a relationship. I'm going to focus on my business for a while, maybe travel, maybe date when I'm ready, definitely be more careful about who I trust with my heart. Lucy flinched at that last comment but didn't argue. "I deserve that." "Yes, you do." We stood in our kitchen for a few more minutes, not talking, just processing the end of our marriage and the beginning of whatever came next. Finally, Lucy broke the silence. "Jake?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for letting me help you destroy him. Thank you for giving me a chance to do the right thing, even after I did everything wrong. Thank you for doing it. It couldn't have happened without you. Do you think it will help? Do you think stopping Mark will make any of this worthwhile?" I thought about Tom Walsh and his wife Jennifer, about the other families Mark had destroyed, about Mrs. Eleanor Whitman and the other elderly clients he'd been planning to exploit. "Yes, Lucy, I think it will help. I think we prevented a lot of pain for a lot of people. That has to count for something." Lucy nodded and headed upstairs to pack. I poured myself a scotch and sat in my kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of my marriage and the satisfaction of justice served. 3 days later, Mark Donovan was arrested on charges of securities fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy to commit theft. The story made the front page of the local newspaper and the evening news. His business was shut down, his assets frozen, and his clients' accounts transferred to legitimate advisors. Jennifer Walsh left her husband Tom, but not for Mark. She left to get counseling and figure out who she was outside of her marriage. Tom and I remained friends, bonded by our shared experience and mutual respect. Lucy moved to California, where she got a job with a nonprofit organization and started the long process of rebuilding her life and her self-respect. We spoke occasionally, always cordially, and I genuinely hoped she would find happiness. As for me, I focused on growing my business, strengthening my friendships, and learning to trust my instincts about people. I dated eventually, but carefully, and with a much clearer understanding of what I wanted in a partner. Mark Donovan was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison and ordered to pay restitution to his victims. He lost his professional licenses, his assets, and his reputation. The last I heard, he was working in the prison library, teaching financial literacy classes to other inmates. I never felt sorry for him. 6 months after our divorce was finalized, I ran into Gina Morrison at a coffee shop. She looked embarrassed to see me, but I invited her to sit down. "Jake, I owe you an apology," she said. "I knew about Lucy and Mark, and I should have said something to you." "Why didn't you?" "Because I thought it was just a phase, something she needed to get out of her system. I never imagined it would destroy your marriage." "It didn't destroy our marriage, Gina. It revealed that our marriage was already broken. Mark was just the catalyst." "Do you regret how it ended? The way you exposed him?" I thought about that question. Did I regret destroying Mark Donovan? Did I regret the methodical way I'd documented his crimes and turned him over to the authorities? Did I regret the satisfaction I'd felt watching his life crumble? No, I said. I don't regret it at all. Mark was a predator who destroyed families for his own amusement. He needed to be stopped, and I'm glad I was the one who stopped him. And Lucy, do you regret how things ended with her? I regret that our marriage failed. I regret that we didn't communicate better, didn't work harder to stay connected. But I don't regret exposing her affair, and I don't regret the way we handled our divorce. We both made mistakes, but we also both took responsibility for them. Gina nodded. She's doing better, you know. In California. She's in therapy, working on herself. I'm glad to hear that. I want Lucy to be happy, Gina. I want her to find peace with what happened and build a better life for herself. Do you think you'll ever forgive her? Really forgive her? I already have. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean trusting someone who's proven untrustworthy. But it does mean letting go of anger and resentment, and I've done that. How? By understanding that Lucy's affair wasn't really about me. It was about her own insecurities, her own needs, her own choices. Mark exploited those vulnerabilities, but they existed before he came along. That's very mature of you. It's very practical of me. Holding on to anger would only hurt me, not Lucy, and I've been hurt enough. We finished our coffee and parted on good terms. I never saw Gina again, but I heard through mutual friends that she'd learned from Lucy's experience and was working harder on her own marriage. A year after Mark's conviction, I received a letter from Mrs. Eleanor Whitman's son, thanking me for exposing Mark's scheme and saving his mother's assets. He enclosed a photo of his mother at her 80th birthday party, surrounded by family and friends, living comfortably in a care facility that she could afford because her money hadn't been stolen. That photo is framed on my office wall, next to a newspaper clipping about Mark's sentencing. They remind me that justice isn't always swift, but it's always worth pursuing. 2 years after my divorce, I met Sarah at a business conference. She was smart, funny, independent, and completely unimpressed by my money or my status. She was also recently divorced, with her own story of betrayal and recovery. We took things slowly, building trust carefully, and always being honest about our past experiences and our current feelings. When I finally told her the story of Lucy and Mark, she listened without judgment, and then said something that surprised me. You know what I admire most about what you did? What? You didn't let Mark's actions turn you into someone you didn't want to be. You got justice, but you didn't get revenge. You exposed him, but you didn't destroy him out of spite. You stayed true to your principles even when you had every reason to abandon them. I'm not sure I see the difference. The difference is that you acted out of a desire to protect other people, not just to hurt Mark. That takes character. Sarah and I have been together for 3 years now. We're talking about marriage, but we're in no hurry. We both understand that trust is earned slowly and lost quickly, and we're committed to building something that will last. I still think about Lucy sometimes, wondering if she's found happiness in California, hoping she's learned from her mistakes. I think about Mark, too, serving his time in federal prison, and I feel a deep satisfaction knowing that he can never again destroy a family the way he destroyed mine. But mostly, I think about the future, about Sarah and the life we're building together, about my business and the success we've achieved, about the friends I've kept and the new ones I've made. Mark Donovan thought he was destroying my life when he seduced my wife. Instead, he freed me from a marriage that was already failing and taught me valuable lessons about trust, betrayal, and justice. In the end, I won. Not because I destroyed him, but because I survived his attempt to destroy me, and I came out stronger on the other side. The end final character count, 61,147 characters.